right, everybody, I am back and I'm so excited. Every once in a while, I get the opportunity to interview people in sex tech, as they call it, and people who run and own vibrator companies and sex tech, and people who are actually working on technology to improve people's sex life and like take it out of this novelty niche and bring it into the mainstream. And one of those people who are doing that is Dr. Elliott Justin, the founder and CEO of Firmtech. And Firmtech focuses on enjoyable sex for men of all ages, while empowering them to better understand their health and the impact of their lifestyle, medications, and habits on their sexual wellness. And they want to collect data to give it to you. So thank you so much for coming on and talking to our people today.
Kelly, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Totally. So you started out your career as an emergency medicine doctor. How did you transition to sex tech and being the founder of this company?
Well, as an emergency medicine physician, I can assure you that there are a few emergencies that concern men, aside from stroke or heart attack, more than erectile dysfunction. We've actually had, especially after Viagra came out in the 90s, we would have men come to the ER seeking the medication because they were distressed. So
you have men going to the ER for Viagra?
Well, yes.
No way.
Yes. Back in the well, now it can be obtained easily online. Yeah, but back in the 90s, it was restricted, and only in New Jersey, the insurance companies and the government providers, Medicare, said you have to it has to be a genuine emergency, or you have to get prescribed by a urologist, and you couldn't give men more than it's either 8 or 10 pills a month. 8 to 10 pills a month is not going to satisfy most men. So it was kind of like saying, "Hey, birth control, you can take it 1 out of every 3 days. Good luck, ladies." So it was an amusing time in terms. So we used to joke, "Who's got the erectile dysfunction beeper today? Who's on call for erectile dysfunction? Stat emergency to the ER, ED."
I love that story. I've never heard a story like that before. That's wonderful. Okay, so here you are, an emergency medicine doc treating ED emergently.
I got into this in 2015. I exited emergency medicine. I had a very successful company. We were in 11 states and had hundreds of doctors working for us. And I always wanted to get involved with medical technology. I was very interested in remote patient management. I previously founded a company called SwiftMD, which is the second oldest telemedicine company in the United States. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been sold. And I also was involved in, before the wearables, I back in 2000-ish, I invented a wearable for the wrist. We called it wrist top care, and we wanted to get the vital signs, pulse oximetry, pulse, respirations, cardiac rhythm off the wrist. And we succeeded in getting them, but we failed to raise money at that time. It was really too early. That market of wearables is now exploded, and that's the market I'm in. Yep. But I was working with back in 2.5 years ago. I was working with a doctor at the University of Utah on a catheter to control blood pressure after stroke. A very complicated process. And a urologist heard about me, and he approached me. The urologist in the University of Utah is now a chief medical officer, Dr. Jim Hotelling, and said, "Look, I want to figure out a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have." And I thought, gee, that's interesting. Everyone knows about morning wood, but nocturnal erections, I knew they occurred, but what I didn't understand was that they are a leading indicator of vascular health. So it's actually critically important. They are a predictor of one's vascular disease. The urologists call the penis the canary in the coal mine of vascular disease.
That's right.
So before a man has a heart attack, before a man has a stroke, before he has significant atherosclerosis, or diabetes, he will get erectile dysfunction. So if I follow my blood pressure, I have borderline high blood pressure. I'm certain many of your listeners follow their blood pressure. And most of your listeners probably go for an annual physical. And they would, if a woman goes to a urologist and says to the urologist, "Gee, I have pain on intercourse," and the urologist just did a gynecologist, excuse me, just did a bimanual exam, you would think, what is this, 1950? Where's the ultrasound? Yeah. If a man went to an internist or a cardiologist on the annual exam and said, I've been noticing that when I walk down the driveway, I get a little more shortness of breath. And that doctor just listened with a stethoscope and say, hey, well, you're okay. Well, I know I want chest CT angiogram, I want electrocardiogram. If you just listen to the stethoscope, we think, what is this, 1880s? So urologists and gynecologists, lack the equivalent of electrocardiogram for the organs that they're evaluating, where they're giving opinions and making recommendations. So counting the number of nocturnal erections would be profoundly valuable. And just jumping ahead a little bit with this product, a year ago, February, when we came up with a prototype, and I saw that I had 5 to 6 nocturnal erections per night, it was more satisfying to me from a health perspective than knowing I have a normal electrocardiogram or a normal blood pressure. So in the future, utilizing our technology, men, in the privacy of their homes, and to be able to assess their cardiovascular risk by evaluating their favorite organ. So he wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections.
What's normal?
So yeah, what's normal? So in a man, well, we're not really certain. The same thing applies to the women's health as well too. We have this organ system, our sexual organ system, that's so important, not just for our pleasure, but for our self-esteem and as a reflection of our overall health. And we don't know a lot about what's normal. But what's assumed to be normal, based on very limited data from the 1980s, we're using a tool called the Rigiscan that looks like something Dr. Frankenstein would put on your penis, or going back to Masson and Johnson's observations back in the 60s. It's a guess, basically. That's guesstimated that a man who's 20 to 30 will have 5 erections per night, and that number will go down with age. We don't know what's normal in my age. I'm 70. We don't know what's normal at 80 or 90 because no one has studied it. And now they can. They can use our technology to study it. So if a man's number of nocturnal erections are going down, that man has a vascular problem until proven otherwise. So if a 25-year-old is having trouble with erections because on hookups or whatever, if that kid wants to go online and get pills, I'm okay with that. On the other hand, if a man who over the age of 45 or 50, at the age at which men start to get hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, goes online and gets pills, that's a mistake. Because if your number of nocturnal erections is going down, or if you have ED, you need a vascular evaluation first before you start taking pills. So this is enormously valuable. So he wanted to figure out how to count the number of nocturnal erections. And I said, wait, we can do a lot better than that. We can measure the duration and the firmness of all erections. And if we can measure the duration and firmness of all erections, in addition to counting the number of erections, we can now measure the impact of diseases. Let me just pause 1 second. My dog must have broken in from downstairs.
Yeah, no problem.
John, could you throw Apollo out? Let's grab him by the collar. Sorry about that. Just grab him by the collar here. He's supposed to be outside. So if we get back into it. If a man can using this technology, if a man can count the number of nocturnal erections he has, and he can measure the duration and firmness of erections while he's having sex. That's what men really want to know. You can't measure that in a doctor's office because we're not having sex in a doctor's office. The men can now evaluate the impact of diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, and more importantly, medications. Because we are for better or for worse, I think largely for the worse, we're a polypharmacy society. And men take lots of things that we call cock killers. They take SSRI antidepressants. And we're utilizing our device. We have men who are titrating their dosage. We're both doctors, but I'm not totally satisfied with doctors, and you're probably not either. One size does not fit all. The antidepressants are prescribed as if we're all the same weight, we're all the same problem. So we have men who are using our device to titrate their antidepressants. We have antihypertensives, beta blockers, and beta blockers and ARBs. These drugs are also cock killers, especially at the beginning in combination with an antidepressant, and they often are. So we have people who, I personally switched from lisinopril to losartan because when I started on lisinopril back in October, probably because getting high blood pressure, probably because of starting a business, I noticed that my erections were 15% less firm. Now, I could still perform, But I had a problem. The problem was invisible to me. That's why we say it's a leading indicator. The problem was invisible to me. It probably would have gotten worse over time. But I didn't know about it because, if your erection goes from this to this, it's, you're not going to, 15% is not enough. But I switched onto losartan. Not that I have any stock in losartan. And I went back to normal. We've had men taking beta blockers who stopped taking them because of their impact on their sexuality. And then we can also measure the impact of recreational drugs, alcohol, diet, supplements, exercise. In the space we're in, Kelly, there's some men, men with ED, and this applies to women as well too. People with sexual problems will walk on equivalent of broken glass in order to get a solution, and they're hopeful. And where there are hopes, there are dopes. Unfortunately, the supplement market, to my mind, is a huge example of that. And we're about to issue a challenge on Instagram next week, saying, "Hey, if you think a supplement is getting you harder, making you last longer, getting you better orgasm, give it to us, and we'll test it for you objectively." We've already tested internally a few of these products. I won't diss them online right now, but it's wrong. It's grossly false claims. Are wrong. Totally. We had an interesting experience with. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you do your interesting experience, and then I have lots of questions about measuring your erections.
An interesting experience with a clinic that was doing pelvic floor exercises for men. And men have pelvic floor problems the way women do. Not as many because they don't get pregnant, and but nevertheless, there are men who have issues, often related to surgery or bladder problems. And the pelvic floor exercise is strengthening the PCG, the pubocaceous muscle. And what's being marketed though is that this will make it easier. This will help with erectile dysfunction. That you'll be increasing the blood flow to your penis. Well, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true is that erections in men and women involve smooth muscle, not skeletal muscle. You can go to the gym or you can do exercise, Kegels, to strengthen your skeletal muscles that move bones. But you can't exercise smooth muscle except by using it. So as a company, our team of urologists, the Scientific Advisory Board, we're about to make a recommendation of how frequently people should have, men specifically, should have sex per week in order to maintain this smooth muscle tone, because it really is use it or lose it. And
it's fascinating.
Men, doctors, we make recommendations about diet, we make recommendations about compliance, we make recommendations about exercise. Isn't it interesting that we doctors don't make recommendations about sex? It's kind of pathetic, isn't it?
It's super interesting. But I think I've come from the female side of things where we don't want to, my whole thing is like, I never want to tell a woman she should, right? Because it becomes a chore then. Maybe a lot of men don't think sex is a chore. But for women, a lot of women think like it's a chore, like 8 fruits and vegetables, 8 hours of sleep, blah, blah, blah. So I always shy away from how many times a week for that reason.
Yeah, I think it's going to change.
It'd be great to have data, right? Like we have no data right now. So doctors are kind of making stuff up based upon how much sex they're having probably.
Well, we know, which probably isn't enough. We know that atrophy occurs without use. So we know that there are.
I'm going to call you on that. I pulled up the original paper on that atrophy because of the social media.
Well,
it's an observational paper.
That's true. It's observational.
Observational paper.
But we do know there are studies, looking at men who are celibate and comparing them to men who are not celibate, and the atrophy is significant.
Like corporal smooth muscle atrophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I'm talking more like hormonal postmenopause vaginal atrophy, which in women was an observational study. So, what's amazing about what you're doing is that you are putting it in the hands of the penis owners, soon to be clitoris owners. You're not just keeping it in a urology research lab in New Jersey, right? Like you're actually saying, we can measure this and here, go do it at home. My question is, do you have data on those 25-year-old men? because I'm thinking if they're more psychogenic ED and you slap this thing on and they see that they're having 5 to 6 nocturnal erections a night, like the boost it'll do to their confidence of like, your hardware's working, let's work on, the psychogenic block. Do you have any data? Like, are guys using it for that reason?
Guys use that. It's being used by several men's clinics. It's also being used in several at Baylor, Mount Sinai, and the University of Utah, and soon a couple of other universities for that reason. We have men who are using that privately though. So they're in a relationship. They're struggling to get it up. For whatever reason, and if they have nocturnal erections, there's an issue in their relationship rather than there being a physical issue. So we solved the psychogenic ED problem because we are a diagnostic aid for that. At the other extreme, though, what if that man? You mentioned 25-year-old. Now, what if that 25-year-old is only having one nocturnal erection or none? Well, there's no amount of vaginal, anal, oral, manual stimulation that's going to change that. So their partner has just gotten, wrist fatigue or jaw fatigue for nothing because it's not them. It's the other person. It's the man. The people we see using that we've sold about 600 tech rings. The people who it's all private. There's only one person in the company who has access to people's information, and it's not me. So people have to reach back to us and inform us. But we've had several older people basically give up, and it's we've had one divorce. One guy said his wife was leaving him. She's 20 years younger. At the other end of it, we've had 2 young bodybuilders in the 20s who are taking significant amounts of testosterone and other steroids, who are trying to get their wives pregnant and failing, and we're having difficulties sustaining an erection or ejaculating. And our technology demonstrated to them, wait, you are damaging yourself. It's now objective. It's not the fact that you are under stress, you've changed jobs, you just got married, it's the stress of trying to get someone pregnant, you can't get it up for that reason or whatever. No, actually, you need to stop taking those pills. And one couple is very happy. They now have a baby. He's given up his bodybuilding and he's getting a career in medicine, actually.
Wow.
And the other guy has significantly adjusted his dose of of hormones down. So
like anabolic steroids is what you're saying can harm the erections? Yes. Fascinating. Yeah. What data do you have on the role of alcohol affecting nocturnal erections?
Just personal data.
Go to the bar, it's a business expense.
we have again, we're giving this tool to the world. Doctors could use it for research purposes, and people can use it for their own personal research. Yeah. I know that utilizing this device, I can predict precisely for myself that point of which I can still get an erection but can't have an orgasm, or which nothing's going to happen. And my daughter, who's 29 years old, says, "God, Dad, you got to develop a phone app for that. Wouldn't it be great if you could get an alarm on your smartwatch that goes off that says, hey, Elliott, it's your anniversary. If you want something to happen, if you want sex tonight, this is your limit."
Right? I know, it's brilliant. There's a paper out of, it was Japan or China, looking at making men stop drinking alcohol and what it did to their erections. And it's astounding how no alcohol improves erections. And I'm like, why aren't doctors telling guys this?
Why aren't doctors telling guys a lot of stuff? But so 2 points. My nocturnal erections get smaller and decrease in duration if I've drunk to the point where I can't get an erection, which makes sense. So let's suppose I want you to have the impression I'm an alcoholic. I'm not, but I do enjoy drinking, and there are times, probably once a month, when I don't, I might have an entire bottle of wine, something like that, and there have been a couple of times now that I have the device where I've actually experimented myself because I wanted to see what happens, the nocturnal erections are gone. Or they're decreased. I've also experienced other medications. One of the people involved with the company told me that she takes trazodone for sleep regularly. This is a younger person. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of men who take trazodone as well too. It's a recommended sleep medication. So I took it 2 nights in a row. I had 0 nocturnal erections. I've also, when I travel internationally, I will take Ambien. Generic, for sleep. Mm-hmm. And if I get out to 2 or 3 days on Ambien, my nocturnal erections decrease in size, and then I've actually had nights where I don't have any. It's changed the way in which I approach Ambien. I now break the adult male dose into quarter. I'll take a quarter. Yeah. And then I'm fine. My erections are normal. And that's not the way it's prescribed. Getting back to doctors again. Yeah, getting back to the way doctors prescribe medication, you and I both know, hey, one size fits all. If you're a woman, you get 5 milligrams. If you're a man, you get 10 milligrams. Right. It's absurd. And then there's the other, talk about doctors again. I'm 70. I don't know how old you are, Kelly, but I've never had a doctor ask me about my sexual health. I've never had a doctor warn me about the sexual side effects of the medication. And I know from talking to many urologists now, and I got them on a bunch of them on my team, I don't want to diss them, but they don't, only one of them was a woman, actually takes a real sexual history. The rest of them, they just, you got erectile dysfunction, what age are you? I'll do, if you're younger, you get a pill. If you're older, you're going to get a pill and a workup and an ultrasound. Mm-hmm. And then I said I've queried now probably 20 plus urologists and said, do you recommend cock rings? Well, they come along with a penis pump. But what's my question? My question is, do you recommend cock rings? The straight guys don't recommend them. Or if they do recommend them, it's like, we'll go to Amazon. If we go to Amazon, you just get a sponsored ad for something that's cheap. One of the jokes we have with the company, when we go to medical shows like American Urology Association or the European Society for Sexual Medicine or the Sexual Society for Sexual Medicine North America, is how do you tell the difference between a straight doctor and a gay doctor? And this probably applies to straight men and gay men as well, too. You ask them one question. You know what the question is?
Do you prescribe?
Do you use a cock ring?
Do you use a cock ring?
Do you use one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or do you? I mean, your question is good too. Do you use a cock ring? So, the straight guy will say it's like Superman with kryptonite. Oh, I don't need that. The gay guy is like, yeah, like last night you got a better one. I'm really looking for one that's more comfortable. So, what the gay men understand that the straight men don't understand is that cock rings are great. There's nothing, and the good deal, the problems that men have with erectile dysfunction is about losing an erection. There are men who can't get an erection, and that's almost invariably, not almost invariably, that's quite often a vascular problem or a medication-related problem. Most men, even men who have performance anxiety, they start to get an erection, then they lose it, or they're older and they can get erection, they start to lose it. Well, men have venous leak syndrome, and venous leak syndrome can be caused by anxiety, and venous leak syndrome can also be caused by aging. Because I talked earlier about the smooth muscle getting weaker. Mm-hmm. Well, as we get older, you're too young to probably have experienced this yet, but you're sitting on a plane for a long time, your feet will swell up, your socks will indent your feet. That's venous leak. As we age, the smooth muscle gets weaker. Smooth muscle in our penis, and I suspect, I don't have the data yet for this, I suspect the smooth muscle in the labia minora and the clitoris and involved with engorgement also get weaker. And so it's an aging process. It can be aggravated by anxiety, because if you're anxious, the blood's not going to stay there because the body wants to send the blood elsewhere in the body. So the answer is a mechanical answer. What do doctors do? We prescribe PD5 medications, Viagra, Tadalafil, whatever. Those medications put more blood into the penis, but they don't keep it there. So the solution to the waning erection is something that's a mechanical solution that will both keep the blood in the penis, but also not block the arterial flow into the penis so that more blood can get in. It only will constrain the venous return. And that was our goal with our rings.
why is there a split between gay and straight and people's preferences for cock rings? Like, where does that come from? Do you know? Like, and like it seems really arbitrary because all men want to have good sex.
I think it has to. I think the gays overall are less inhibited about sex. In addition to which, anal penetration is harder than vaginal penetration. You have to be harder and to sustain being harder.
Okay, yeah.
And a ring is really helpful for that. I mean, my gay friends tell me that if they're at a party, the phrase they use is, "Are you ready?" What is and I didn't know about this till like 2 months ago because I was just interested. And ready means that a douche has been used, and ready also means that they got a ring, because so often failure will occur because their rectal sphincter will go into, well, the rectal sphincter doesn't want to emit a penis, just wasn't designed that way. And so there's the penetration factor, there's the inhibition factor. I also think that gay men don't see cock rings, or talking to them at least, they don't see cock rings as crutches. It's not a pride issue. They see them as performance enhancers. And that's regardless of their size. I've had a really fun conversation with some people who brag about their size. How they still use rings because they got the same issues with retaining with holding on to blood. So I think those.
Yeah, I think that answers it. I mean, when I talk to women about using vibrators sexually, it's usually their heterosexual male partner who's like, "Oh, no, you shouldn't have to use that. They don't want it in the bedroom. It's competition. It is, it's replacing them." And it's like they have a block to using a female vibrator in the bedroom also.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, in my lifetime, vibrators have become mainstream for all women. So, my mother's vibrator was in the bottom drawer of a dresser in a supply closet that she thought we would never find, and of course we did. We know what it was, but my wife has them on in our night table, has her favorites, that her go-tos, and she takes them with her on trips, and my daughter takes them on dates. So.
Good for her.
I think the same. Awesome. I think the same thing needs to occur, and that's pretty normal for her. I think for talking to her and her friends, maybe not the first date, but second or third one. So I'd love to see, and one of my goals is to see cock rings mainstream for men. I mean, I never used the cock ring regularly until I came up with ours, and I'm not saying that because to promote ours specifically, but. I'm married to a fairly adventurous woman. We've married for 35 years, and I'd say once or twice a year we get a cock ring. There's always a new. It's just like with not with the frequency of vibrators, but there's always something new for cock rings, some new form, some new shape, and often they're ones that can be shared between partners, and we're interested in that as well too. We never use them more than once because they're uncomfortable, because they're made out of hard silicone. They pinch. They're not comfortable for her either. And so one of our, since I wanted to embed sensors in cock rings that could be worn overnight, I had to change the form of a cock ring.
Right.
And
you have to be able
I never really
thought
about it before. I never really thought, gee, that my life would be about solving the cock ring problem. But, and actually, before I get to the cock ring problem, I want to make one other point. I think that if cock rings are going to be mainstream, it's going to come about from women. I mean, again, when I was dating in the 70s and 80s, women didn't bring condoms on dates until the very end of my dating career in the mid 80s, and then became normal. Women my daughter's age and women older. I mean, I was chatting with a couple of 7-year-old women at a fundraiser the other night who are both widowed. They bring condoms on dates. If a sex toy is going to be, and I don't think I use the word toy hesitantly, but that's what people call it. If a sex toy is going to be introduced into a relationship, like a cock ring, it's got to come about from the women. Women make most of the sex toy decisions. If a man buys something, it's a novelty. It might get used once or twice. If a woman introduces something, it's going to get used all the time. It's just the nature of the dynamic between men and women. maybe we could say it's cultural, but it's just the way it is. So cock rings enhance pleasure for both parties. Our cock ring, and I can talk about that in a moment, is uniquely comfortable, easy on, easy off. It can be put on discreetly. You don't have to like interrupt sexual activity. Oh, where's my fucking cock ring? I thought it was on the night table. Where is it now? Because you can put it on. You can put it an hour before. You put it on 2 hours before. Matter of fact, my wife's idea of foreplay, because I'm a guy, is to throw it at me. If it's not 10 o'clock at night and I'm on the computer and I'm working, she just plunks it. There it is. She'll just put that in front of me. It's almost Pavlovian at this point. I kind of really shift from a work mind. So, I guess it's time to. I'm great. It's time to go to bed. So the cock ring has done several, and it's changed our relationship. It's changed. So our cock ring. Why do I like it? I like it because I designed it deliberately to be comfortable, so it can be worn for hours. So most cock rings made out of hard silicone, they can only be worn for 20 or 30 minutes. They pinch, they're uncomfortable. You want them off right away. The male mindset is already come and done. Now you got something else uncomfortable. You want to come quickly. You want it off because it's uncomfortable. This ring, I'm an older person. My wife and I like to make love for 30, 40, 45 minutes. And then with this ring, I can stay hard for that time period. Previously, before I had the ring, I would start to lose an erection after, 10 minutes. It's made certain positions more pleasurable too. It's like we've rediscovered old positions. And that's really fascinates me too. Now, this is anecdotal. You've challenged me to have a paper on this. I'd love to write a paper on this using your patients as subjects. But people don't talk realistically about what happens with sex as people get older. It's all the talk is about penetration. Mm-hmm. But you and I both know from talking to people, and you've spoken to more people than I have, that as people get older, to 30s and 40s, a lot of sex it's oral sex, it's mutual masturbation, it's people taking turns. It's not always about penetration. And there are certain and there are lots of reasons for that. But one of the reasons is boredom. This is a really hard subject people talk about. One of the reasons why people often stop making love is just a certain boredom, and they get in addition to which they get out of the habit. So with this ring, my wife and I find ourselves making love in positions that bored me. So I'm speaking specifically about the missionary position or rear entry, because from my perspective, I've done this 1,000 times, or 2,000 times. I'll do this for 5 minutes, but then I'm going to lose interest. We need to change positions. But if I'm wearing the ring, I'm now a man with a heart on. Oh, God, it feels good. I might not want to come in this position, but my wife, this is what you want to do to have your orgasm? Fine, because I'm not going to lose interest. So we've actually started making love again more frequently in the missionary position, or from behind, positions that she likes. And we weren't doing that before. So here we are a year into using this ring, and we think, this ring has actually impacted our lives, not just sexually, but also romantically, in a sense. And I think younger people, unfortunately, often speak about sex transactionally rather than romantically. But if I'm going to be, this ring will keep me hard for 8-10 minutes after I have an orgasm. Well, I don't need to keep on thrusting for my wife's pleasure. That's already happened, because that's the nature of a successful partnership between a man and a woman. But if I'm a man with an erection, I no longer have that come and done mentality. I'm there romantically together. So again, nothing we've commented on, my wife and I, is not only are we making love in positions that we kind of had given up, but we're actually staying in bed after sex, because it's no longer, hey, I've had an orgasm, let's get a drink, or I've had an orgasm, who's texted me while we're having sex. Mm-hmm. And the last factor is, I don't know whether you've ever discussed this with your clients, is one of the complaints that men have about women in general is somewhere in the middle of sex, they'll start talking about something random that's on their mind. It could be that fight they have with their mother, a problem they have with their kid, some chore that was forgotten to be done. Well, even though I think my wife and I have a very successful marriage, in the past, my reaction would have been, essentially WTF, and you can't hold on to that thought for 5 minutes. With the ring on, though, so I just give you an example. I mean, like last week, my wife suddenly told me she had a great idea about redesigning the arrangement of bookshelves in our bedroom. That would have irritated me in the past. It didn't irritate me because I got the ring on. Okay, you want to talk about that for a few minutes? I'm fine with that. And she laughed about it too because she knew that I wasn't going to be irritated. So I guess I made this a bit too personal, but that's the potential impact of an effective, comfortable cock ring on a relationship.
So it just keeps you, to like break it down scientifically, it keeps you harder for longer, and like there's less of that like anxiety that it's going to go away, or like I need to really focus really hard to keep this going. It just kind of like takes that edge off.
And it's comfortable. And so you don't have to, it's not like it's comfortable. So I mean, most cock rings are too tight. I mean, I imagine if you put on a bra that was 2 sizes too small, you want the thing off. Now, if you had to wear that bra in order to have sex, you probably would put up with it, but you'd want it off immediately after. Well, that's what most of these hard silicone rings are like.
Tell me, like, just for guys who are like cautious about it, like if they're not tech savvy, can they still figure this thing out?
We're trying to make it easier and easier. So I would say last summer it was harder. I would say now it's easier. And we're just actually working on, so it's a Bluetooth enabled app. You put the device on, you pair it with your phone. It's cyber secure. When the device is on, the Bluetooth is actually off. When the device is on your body, the Bluetooth is off. So no issues with concerns about radiation. When you're done, you turn the device off. You have to turn it on again in order to repair it with a phone. The data takes about 20 seconds to appear. We are about to change the data. This project is this month. So within 4 or 5 weeks, the data is going to come to people in a much more colorful form. You're probably familiar with the Aura.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or it's going to be more like that in terms of some of the data we find, like Whoop to my mind is it's data overload. The Apple Watch, that's I don't trust the data that they get, that they're getting. Mm-hmm. And both I like the way the Oura Ring presents data, and will presenting the data within 4 or 5 weeks in a friendlier form. Other people, we give one free consultation. People can speak to me or speak to one of our urologists about how to interpret that data. We will soon, as part of this version 3.0 of the app, we will be giving people information about their data, as opposed to people having to contact us. They'll be getting information about the data. We're also going to have an erectile fitness score. I mean, speaking with 7 urologists, we have a score. What's normal? And we need more data, of course, because as we get more people into the data set, we can start doing what you alluded to earlier, which is that, what's normal for a 25-year-old? What's normal for a 50-year-old? What's normal for a 50-year-old diabetic taking a blood pressure medicine and diabetes medication, antidepressant? We don't have that data right now. We want that data because we want people to be able to help.
I'm curious about prostate cancer. Right? Like can we watch the recovery of the penis after prostate cancer surgery? That would be fascinating.
That is a great one. So there's a doctor at Mount Sinai who wants to study that. And there will be research on that. I think that research will probably, kick off in the fall. Yeah. Men after prostate surgery, and the incidence of to use an old fashioned word, but medically accurate word, impotence, let's just say erectile dysfunction after prostate surgery is significant, and it ranges from 20 to 80%. I mean, there's so many studies, and we know the success rate in the community hospitals is a lot less that's reported in some of these, to my perspective, cherry-pick studies done at universities where are supports that are not available in the community hospital setting. So
amazing.
And men afterwards are dismayed by their lack of recovery because it takes a long time. So we have several men who, I'll say that I've had 3 men report back to me that they saw 3, 4, 5, 6 months after the surgery, they saw nothing happening with the rehab, but they saw something happening using our device. They saw that they'd gone from 0 nocturnal erections to weak nocturnal erections, and that encouraged them to comply with the demanding regimen. I hope that people will develop a positive relationship with this wearable. We call it underwearable, because we know even with something as simple as a digital scale. If you put a digital scale in a person's home, they are more likely to maintain their weight than if they don't have a scale. We know that people who are following their pulse oximetry because they're using a wearable on their wrist or their finger, and they have asthma or COPD, they are more likely to comply with their medication regimen. We know that people using digital calorie counters are more likely to attain the weight. I'm hoping that people will not only get profoundly useful data from their devices, that they will then eat better, weigh less, exercise more, take their medications, ideally even avoid getting diseases. Because if you're normally having 5 nocturnal erections and you go to 4 into 3 into 2, that should be an alert. I mean, what do men care more about? How many steps they took yesterday, or their cock? I mean, it's a rhetorical question.
I mean, I want to see what lowering somebody's A1C does to their erections. I want to see what an exercise routine does to their erections. The alcohol thing is fascinating to me. I'm like, there's so much that we do not know.
Yes, exactly. And I go ahead.
Oh no, I'm switching to clitoris now.
Sure.
When's the clitoris one coming out?
Sure. Well, we're coming out with a clitoral vibrator that can, because we've opened up the ring, we can now slide things on and off it. So right now, clitoral vibrators are attached to cock rings for partner pleasure. They're attached, and they're often in the wrong position anatomically. They're often in the ring itself or just above the ring, and clitoris is 3 to 4 centimeters away from the base of the dorsum of the penis. So it's in the wrong position. Or my wife calls it a landing pad. The landing pad is made out of hard silicone. It's uncomfortable. Yes, it's in the right anatomic position and it'll work, but it's uncomfortable. And we're working with a team of mostly Thai female design engineers on our clitoral vibrator. Our clitoral vibrator is covered with an elastomer, so it's softer, it's more comfortable. Mm-hmm. We also, there's women. And I never actually heard this described although I was aware this was an issue. With the women, there were 3 issues with vibrators, women that were identified by our female engineering group. One, they're not ergonomically sound. This position, I'm cocking my wrist to the side here, is uncomfortable. So the vibrator might work, but it's uncomfortable, especially for older women. The vibrators, a lot of the larger wands, vibrating dildos, vibrating rabbits are large and uncomfortable. They still work, but they do something that the female engineers said. They are efficient, but they're not effective. And what they mean by that is that, it'll get you off quickly, but that's efficient, but that's not effective. They want something that's comfortable, can be used for a protracted period of time. Then there's the rumble buzz factor, which gets a lot of play in the sex toy industry. Mm-hmm. You want a rumble or you want a buzz? And so for our vibrator, we chose a midpoint in between rumble and buzz. We took the wand, Hitachi wand, which is the most popular. Well, not in the status bar, the most popular. Works for all women. Vibrators, but it's a buzz. Even at the low registry, it's a buzz. And then the engineers, it was a fun experiment. They played around with 12, 15 female vibrators, and they liked the aura for the rumble factor. They liked the aura by Tenga. Again, I have no stock in that company, but enough women liked it that I feel free to. I'll put that out there for people looking for a palm vibrator. Yeah. So we've chosen a midpoint between those 3 in terms of amplitude and frequency. And we have 3 speeds because women don't want 50 speeds.
I do not
they want to be simple. And then what was really important to me Well, they got to market these things. They got to come up with something new. What's really important to me was come up with something that was ergonomically sound as well too, and address this issue of wrist fatigue. I know as well too, just in playing around with my wife's vibrators with her, it's like, hey, after 5 or 10 minutes, I want to change positions. I end up, and I've heard some other men too, you end up between their legs because it's more comfortable to be holding like this rather than like this, because that works. But it's not a position that the woman can't have two bodies. The woman can't step out of her body and move into a more comfortable position. Mm-hmm. So I wanted a vibrator. I challenged the engineers. I wanted a vibrator that could be used with just their index finger and the middle finger, because those are the fingers that nature has given women to masturbate with. So, so I guess the product that does that quite well, I think, is the Fin by Dame. And again, I'm not involved, but that's ergonomically sound. So we copy, I'm not going to copy that, but ours can be done like that. Ours is controlled by, our vibrator can slide on and off the cock ring, so it can be used for partner sex. It can also be, when it's off though, it can be used solo by women. We've also tested out on some gay guys involved with the company, and they liked it as well too, because it's controlled with two fingers, so it's ergonomically sound. And that's coming out this summer. But the big one is to be able to track, monitor as a diagnostic aid, clitoral and labia minora health, vascular health, and we have tested that on 12 women successfully, and we have a WeFunder going on right now. I want to raise $1 million for research and development. To commercialize that product. If I had $1 million, I could bring it out this year, and I intend to bring it out. If not this year, I will bring it out next year. That's our. Let's put it this way: I'm confident that we'll be able to raise the money.
It would be mind blowing for women with arousal disorders to have that sort of data. It'd be fascinating for women to have with desire disorders to have that kind of data. It'd be fascinating for triathletes to have that kind of data. Like, just so, again, like my brain is going.
Imagine establishing a baseline. Yeah, it's like establishing a baseline blood pressure, baseline electrocardiogram, your baseline hemoglobin A1C.
Pre-menopause and post-menopause hormones.
Yes. Well, postmenopausal women have all the problems that men do: diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis. But given what you just said, premenopausal women take too many medications. They're taking antidepressants, SSRI antidepressants specifically, 25%, like they're lifesavers.
25% of American women.
I think in certain demographic groups, the more money they have, the wealthier people are, the more likely they are to be taking them. In women who have this number, I don't know where I got this number from, because I read it somewhere. Women who have postgraduate degrees, it's over 50% are taking SSRI antidepressants.
No way.
So, yeah. So, and then they're also taking hormones for either birth control or other reasons. Music birth control, or maybe endometriosis. Well, those two things in combination, they're both. We talk about cock killers. They're clitoris killers. They are killers of libido. We now are into like a couple of generations of women younger than me, probably even younger than you. We don't even know they've never been normal. Normal meaning, what's it like without medication?
Right. Well, 10% of women have never had an orgasm. Well,
now utilizing our device, women will be able to. This device we're going to come out with next year. Unless someone writes me a check for $1 million, in which case I'll bring out the end of this year. The women can now measure, can titrate, just the way men can titrate their testosterone or their antidepressants. That women will be able to do that as well too. Or women will be able to demonstrate, God, without these medications, this is my clitoral health. With these medications, oh my God, why am I doing this?
Right. Oh my gosh. Dr. Elliott Justin, you have me, like, my brain is turning right now. I'm so excited about this to come out.
Thank you.
Will you please come back once the clitoris stuff is out, so we have more data to talk about for that, because this is cracking open. It's like being able to see something you've never been able to see before.
Like the electrocardiogram. Again, this is open. This is open source. If you or other people want to use this in your practice, or you want to use it for research purposes, we'll collaborate with you because we want data, we want research, we want this to be mainstreamed.
Yeah, it's amazing. Any final thoughts about like the future or what your hopes are for our listeners before we wrap it up?
Well, my hope is that you will soon, men and women, be able to get the vital signs of everyone's most vital organ, and that as a consequence, you will live healthier and enjoy a lifetime of lovemaking and pleasure.
It's possible. Totally. And now we'll have data to show us what our lifestyle and medications are doing to our body. So amazing.
Yes. And you can find us at myfirmtech.com. And you can also find us at wefunder.com/firmtech if you'd like to participate in our research and development.
I will put that down in the show notes. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely.